Hello, and welcome to yet another wartime audio review that I am making to distract myself from the war that goes on in my country. And today I want to tell you about the second revision or new version of FiiO's flagship desktop digital to analog converter K9 Pro ESS version. I already reviewed the previous K9 Pro. It was based on a K4499 digital to analog converter chip, and it was packed with features. And I will skip this part of story where I explain why they have to redesign this device using dual 9038 Pro, if I remember right, by ESS. So you know why it's so. And what we've got here, we've got really powerful, it's 52 volts RMS, and that means more than 2 watts for 32 ohm load, and from the balanced output more than 1 watt of power for the 300 ohm load. So in terms of driving power, it's really mighty device. And traditionally for FiiO, they packed it with inputs, outputs, added support of Bluetooth, control application, and all that other stuff. Price is $800. Of course, it can't be called cheap or affordable, but for this set of features and sound, it's a really good price. So let's have a closer look. As you can see, package is traditional for recent FiiO creations. Nice foiling, good polygraphy. Box is kinda big, not fitting on my table. And besides of this inner box, you'll get regular cardboard outer transport box. Inside you'll get a warning that you need to be careful with selecting proper voltage. So pay attention, pretty big manual, and inside you'll get digital to analog converter itself and the set of accessories. So I will just show them to you, and then I will remove all non-necessary things from table and we'll talk about the design. So you'll get 6.3mm adapter, set of spare rubber feet, power cord, USB cable and spare fuse, actually nice Bluetooth antenna, and another good thing, a stand if you want to put it vertically. So FiiO promised it to create it, and they created and put in the accessories set. So as you can see, in terms of packaging, design and stuff, everything is done really great. In terms of the design, actually ESS version is really close to the original one. They basically use the same shape with two noticeable exceptions. First one, for the ESS version they decided to make the knob gold. I don't know why, what was the idea behind that, but for me I think it doesn't make much difference. And more noticeable difference, actually they took feedback into account, and as you can see, ESS version now has a noticeable big vent holes on the side to improve the heat distribution and improve the cooling of the device inside. Of course, with such power, it's a really good idea. In terms of design, actually you can see it yourself. It's really solidly built. It's pretty heavy, so FiiO used some thick aluminum to make this shell, and they decided to make practical, not super fancy design. They've added some edges. You see, it reminds their M17 and M11 a little bit, so to stay in same design. And it's a universal device that will fit nicely in your hi-fi rack or on the table somewhere near your computer. So if you have enough space, you can put it horizontally. But if you don't, actually let's try to do that. Need to find the center of mass, and it stays vertically with the stand pretty reliably. Actually you can move it slightly forward or backward, so you can balance it, you can put it with two contact points, one on the stand and here it will touch the surface, but stays very reliably under any condition. And actually they didn't glue the feeds here, so if you want to use it horizontally, you need to glue that feeds that came in the accessories set. And in terms of inputs and outputs, basically all of them located on different sides. Actually, here is that red toggle that they give you a warning, so pay attention that it's switched to your voltage. On the back side, here is the power input and on-off button and fuse here. I like that power supply is built in my opinion it's a big plus. And here are inputs: USB, optical, coaxial and Bluetooth. And analog outputs: balanced output, line in, line out, and 4.4mm line in, so you can use it with modern players that supports Pentacon line out. As you can see, in terms of connectivity, it's pretty universal. So let's screw Bluetooth antenna on its place. Here it is. Also they added additional USB in on the side. It's really convenient and useful if you want to use it with your smartphone, for example, or player that you carry somewhere, then you put it near the digital to analog converter, connect to this side input and basically use it as a transport. On the front panel here are three main outputs, so Pentacon balanced, here it is 6.3mm single-ended Pentacon balanced, and traditional 4-pin XLR balanced, basically standard for the modern headphones. Volume knob rotates smoothly, zero channel imbalance, so as usual, as you can expect, everything from FiiO. Set of LEDs that show you the selected inputs: Bluetooth, line in, coaxial, optical and USB. And controls, so you can select output, digital to analog converter, preamplifier and headphones. So basically headphones output and digital to analog converter with or without volume control. 3 levels of gain. I like to see 3 levels, it's always convenient. Buttons that you constantly press to cycle through inputs, and on-off button. So this one is like total shutdown of the device, but with this button, pressing it for a few seconds, you can move it to the standby mode. You press it and it goes into standby. Unfortunately, it doesn't support remote control, but it's a device created mainly for headphones, and usually for headphones you can't go really far from the device, so remote control is not that important here. But as you can see, in terms of connectivity, inputs and outputs, FiiO did their best to provide maximum. As usual, FiiO added companion app support for this digital to analog converter, and it allows you to tweak some settings. Actually, forgot to mention, not sure if it's visible on video, but around the volume knob there is a multicolor LED indicator. It's not bright and you can turn it off, but it can indicate that device is working if you like it. And as usual, as a companion app, you will use any FiiO player or FiiO player software for your Android or iOS device. You enter FiiO control mode, and here it shows that it's K9 Pro ESS. It's connected via LDAC. Here you can change status indicator pattern, off, default and multicolor gradient. You can select Bluetooth codecs or actually disable the ones that you don't need. It's convenient when your smartphone doesn't support that. And you can select what input source will be used. Also for the Bluetooth you can use equalizer. Maybe I can be wrong, but actually if I remember right, it works just for the Bluetooth. But of course for the USB and other things it's not that useful. And in the audio settings you can select channel balance and low pass filter, all that variety of filters that's supported by ESS chip. Also here is a short manual that allows you to see what's going on and describes everything. And here you can see the version, set custom device name, upgrade firmware, clear pairing, restored to default settings, and toggle standby mode. So nice set of basic controls. And of course about the sound. For demonstration purpose I create a small setup with Meze Lyric as headphones for demonstration purpose and the FiiO M11 Plus to show some examples. For this video I connected via Bluetooth, but of course for testing purpose I used a USB connection from my MacBook to this digital to analog converter. And you know, in general, speaking about the sound, I don't know what to say here, because sound is just natural, energetic, slightly energetic, without any significant coloration, really technical but not clinical, so really balanced sound. Like, you know, take a popular digital to analog converter, 9038 of course, Pro of course is really popular, add here a good THX amplification and you've got a really good solution. So FiiO just takes good solutions like XMOS chip and so on, and compiles them together into a perfect device. Of course, it's not that simple work. They spend a lot of time tuning and tweaking everything, but good components not always means good sound, but it's a case of the perfect illustration. But of course you want to hear more if you're listening my not perfect English up to this moment. And let's talk step by step. So bass is deep with good control, really good, tons of power here. Okay, not tons, but plenty of power for all models except really power hungry. And that means good control of low frequencies. Bass stays in place, it doesn't try to emphasize weight or to be super punchy, but necessary amount of punch you'll get good textures, really good saturation of overtones, so really universal. If you like bass, if you like control, if you like organic instruments, so any genre you take, it will just deliver it as it's recorded. And the first example here is Juno Reactor Tempest. I often use this track to test deep bass, and in the introduction they have that low frequencies that moves from left to right and vice versa, really deep rumbling bass, and this amplifier and digital to analog converter delivers it perfectly without any issues. And the second example, also pretty traditional, it's Musica Nuda, is their live record and track Fever, cover of a really famous track, and this digital to analog converter plays double bass in a nice engaging way with good body. Mid frequencies are also technical, but not focusing on the micro contrast, with a good distribution of weight and dynamics, really good in saturation of emotions, but basically just plays what is present in the record. Imagery stage is noticeably above average in width and in depth, not huge, it's not trying to exaggerate it or make it more spacious than it is, but positioning and depth layering and separation is really good. And actually it requires a good materials, well recorded tracks, because it's not trying to highlight something. Maybe there is a slight emotions highlighting, but it's really tiny, so in general I'd say that it's not trying to boost something. And first example, it's Miles Davis, All Blues, famous track from one of the most famous jazz albums, and that fast introduction is really complicated to represent, but this digital to analog converter delivers it really well. And second example, Master of Puppets, actually it's the track where you can hear that record quality is not perfect. You'll definitely hear issues, especially going from something that is recorded really good, like kind of blue, to something that is recorded like okay, like Master of Puppets, but still this digital tonal converter delivers a nice amount of details, and it's not sounding too analytical to make this track dull or lifeless. And the treble is most noticeable improvement over the previous K9, and actually that's what I expected, taking into account the difference between M11 Plus AK version and M11 Plus ESS version, for example. It's change is almost same here. You'll get slightly better treble layering and less weight on the mids, but about the comparisons a bit later. So treble layering is nice, not perfect, but nice. But for this price range, it's almost the best layering I've heard. And that means good overtone saturation, lot of nuances of room where it was recorded, and pretty rich audiophilic treble. And first example is Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin. You understand why it's here. Guitars, that intro with lot of treble, really airy with lot of nuances, and that this digital tonal converter delivers that. And second example, it's Niechęć, Krew. You know, I liked this Polish band even before the war, but now Polish people proved that they are really generous, and their hospitality really out of this world. They did so much for Ukraine that it's hard to express, and actually I will include this track or actually this band into any review. Okay, I'm kidding, of course, but really wanted to have an opportunity to say thank you to all the Polish people supporting Ukraine, and other countries, of course, too. But you know, it's a case when closest neighbor came to help really much, and really recommend you this band. Really great avant-garde jazz with a lot of interesting ideas, recorded pretty nicely, and with a lot of overtones that goes to the treble area. And this digital tonal converter definitely delivers it really well. Speaking about the pairings, it's pretty universal. It's really good with sensitive in-ear monitors. Background noise is really low on the low gain, especially if you're using single-ended output. And with power-hungry headphones from the balanced output, there won't be any issues, except of like few models that everyone knows. Like I'm always confusing Suswara by Hi-Fi Man, for example, HE6, Abyss, just that few models that requires tons of power. And actually, what is also surprised me here is that Bluetooth is really listenable. Of course, you lose a bit of detalization, stage, and extension on both ends with LDAC, for example, but still, quality is pretty good. And the delays are low. They are noticeable when you're using some test videos, for example, but not that big, at least for me. And actually about the comparisons, the only digital tonal converter I'd like to mention here, of course, it's AK version. Difference is pretty simple. This one is slightly more airy and less weighty. AK version has more weight on the mid frequencies and slightly less definition in the treble area. Here you'll get slightly better treble and slightly less weight on the mids. Difference is not big, and if you have one of the versions, there is not much sense in trying to get another, but actually, let's summarize it. If you're looking for an all-in-one device on the market, if you don't have like few $1,000s budget, K9 Pro is definitely one of the best offers on the market so far. Thank you for listening, thank you for your attention, and of course have a nice day.